Yo, 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 what's up, what's up, what's up? Welcome back to Let's Chop It Up. Another great week. How my brothers doing?
You
What's
already
up,
know.
We good. We good.
How was your week, Rod? Anything exciting, brother? Anything?
You know what? I didn't have much to say, much exciting to say about this week. Just spent time with family as much as possible. Just always trying to stay positive, trying to release positivity in the world, and it was pretty much a slow motion week. Not much to be said. Just enjoying my time with you guys right now, though, man. This is the highlight of my week.
How about you, Rodney?
Yeah. Nothing much exciting. I mean, I got a lot of things done. It was a little bit of a productive week for me as far as business wise, but everything is good. My son decided to pop up and surprise everybody, and he popped up and came home for the weekend. So he's here now. So we're gonna get a good meal because he's upstairs cooking. So yeah. But other than that, everything else good.
Cool. How was your week, Kelvin?
Everything was great, man. You know how you move to new levels in life, and once you can't move to the next level until you master one level. So I have mastered not having money. I've completed it. I have mastered being broke. I've done that. So now I think that the arrow's pointing up. Also, I'm extremely excited about coming to America. Haven't been to Zamunda since '88, and now it's time to go back. So I'm ready. But D, I'm excited about tonight's show, and I'm excited about life.
It'd have been ill if Wakanda and what's the place again? Zamunda had a beef. That would be kind of ill. But
neighboring city. That would have been hot. That'd have been hot.
But my week was cool. It was interesting. It was fun. It went fast. I did something different, guys. I didn't even tell you about this on Wednesday, man. Brother, I got my chest waxed.
Whoa.
Oh.
Whoa.
Yo, the first one to hear it.
Why?
Yeah, yes. Listen, I went to this company, Margot Priestley. They also do waxing now too. Besides head wraps, they try to do some wax and stuff. So I got my chest waxed this weekend.
Oh,
I think my BDBs were getting too strong.
All right. The question was that your idea?
Kinda. It was getting too crazy, man.
You're killing me here. You killing me here, brother.
It coming out my neck. It was getting kind of crazy. Man.
Oh man, you gotta take care.
My beard I had to shave down last week.
Little self-care is important, man.
Man.
Shout out to TT's Butter Company, man. I got that. I ordered something. I came. I got that sweet and salt scrub.
Whoa, that stuff is intoxicating.
I'm ready.
Yeah, you're ready.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm ready.
Yo, for the audience that doesn't know what we're talking about, TT's has this really great sugar scrub that she sells, and the smell on a woman is amazing after they use it. So it's kind of arousing, like when my wife puts it on. I mean, it kind of sets it off.
Yeah, my wife and I did a little unboxing, man. You know what I mean? It came in a nice box. It was well prepared. It was nicely put together, man. It was very professional. And
that's what's up.
When you open it, you just instantly smell it, man.
Well, I'm gonna put some of that on my chest. But but in weekly news, we've seen over 500,000 coronavirus deaths. We surpassed that this week. So I mean, what's your brother's thoughts on that? And over the last, it almost will be a year next month that we really started tackling this thing.
Yeah. We lost a lot of people to COVID.
You remember when initially. When Trump said if we lose 200,000 people, we'll be fortunate, and people was like, that's ridiculous. And I mean, the comment was so dismissive, and it just felt disrespectful. And now looking back, man, I mean, to lose 500,000 people is just tragic. I mean, to lose one person is tragic, but I would have never thought in a million years to have something kill 500,000 people in this way, So it's tough, man. My heart goes out to all of the families and just every associate. We all know somebody who knows somebody who passed. Just tough.
And it's just
I wonder if he was being back to the Trump thing. I don't want to get on the Trump thing, but I'm wondering if now, man, if he was being dismissive of if he was just being prescient, man, because it was kind of like getting us ready for it, because who knew 500,000?
With him, I think it's dismissive.
Of course.
The tiebreaker goes.
He don't care about nobody.
But I think you can be both. You know what I mean? That's just like it was kind of predictive as well. You know what I mean? When you look at it, because look at where we are. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's
well, you know what it is, Derek, and I agree with you. The only thing is when you say if we lose 200,000 people, I think we did a good job. The question is, who are those people?
Yeah.
Like if it's your cousin or son or somebody like that, then it's like, how do you choose that? So it just seemed like it minimized life. You know what I mean? But he probably was right. What I learned a long time ago is just because something is right doesn't mean it needs to be said. Some things are better off left unspoken. And I think that may have been the way it was phrased, would have been one of those things.
Yeah, and like Lisa said, that's only 500,000 deaths in the United States.
Yeah, just the United States.
That's the United States.
I think the total cases is what, 28.5 million.
Wow.
Of cases of COVID we have.
Wow.
And just the United States. Just the United States.
Yeah. And then some little lighter note, but still COVID related. We had do you guys see the ladies in Pastor and the grandmas so they could get in front of the line to get the COVID vaccine shot first?
Yeah. They came in there looking like the Golden Girls. They should have gave them a shot that would have gave them diarrhea for the last 6 months. That's what they should have gave them when they found out who they were.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, that was just.
Come on, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just like there's people that need that shot a lot more than other people, and people are taking advantage. But and I kind of feel like there's probably, there could be probably doctors out there cutting lines for people for extra pay too. Because there was a couple of Beverly Hills doctors that said they were offered extra money to give certain people the COVID vaccine. So definitely, if people see opportunity, they're going to take it.
Now, what I did hear was I heard somebody here in the New York area say that some of the places, rather than let it expire, I guess after there's an expiration regarding refrigeration. And so some people at the end of whatever day that is or cycle, rather than them throw it out, they make it available to anybody who's in close proximity. So one person that was young said they were able to get the shot because they just hung around, and they, rather than throw it out, they got it. So people would be willing to wait like that. To me, at the end of the day, you trying to get that shot illegally is taking it away from somebody more deserving at the moment. And I think that's what's really upsetting to them. And I mean, they got a slap on the wrist to me. I thought there should have been, kind of a precedent set with them. They just sent them away and told them they're blocked out from getting it their regular time, I think.
Yeah, but it just shows you, like, and like I said, in my neighborhood, in the August Moore High School, when they started opening up, it was nothing but white people. None of them live in my neighborhood, so it's like we still seeing that across the board. I mean, Jamie lives in Tampa. Jamie was telling us about before, like in the hardest neighborhoods before with people of color living at, you have white people coming in, they're getting this access before us. And they were
how is that? Is it representative of the neighborhood, or it has nothing to do with the neighborhood, the actual center?
But where they were giving the shots at?
So yeah, in your neighborhood, August Martin is in a predominantly black neighborhood. Yeah, you're saying that correct. The line is predominantly white people receiving the shot.
It just started changing to a mixed crowd.
Okay, well, how did they determine that? Is it just that these people could be from Bensonhurst and they're sent there, or are they taking it from somebody who's?
I think when they first sent it out, they didn't give like for zip codes. Now I think with the new one just got for for York College, and you got Medgar Evers College, they're going by zip code and you have to have proof. But before that, it seemed like because they have access. Remember, some of our neighbors, and we could probably, when we talk to our guests about this, some of our neighbors don't have internet access. They don't have young people to know how to work it out. Then also when they call on the phone lines are always jammed up. Mm-hmm. So certain people have better access to certain technology. They was able to get on board first and then get in the lines first before all of us in our neighborhoods. The people that are dying more of us on the front lines doing healthcare services, public transportation, police department, fire department, all the EMS. So, and it really goes to show you, like, we still have discrepancies in racism, and when it comes even to just getting the doggone shot, and it's really sad. It's really sad.
Mm-hmm. Well, racism and or prejudices don't take a break during the pandemic. I mean, it's just, it's still center stage. But at the end of the day, I'll say there's certain things I would be very, very afraid to do, and this is something you don't play with. So I just hope people can find some civility to make sure that it's kind of like just an orderly fashion thing. We gotten this far. Just please, everybody, stay the course.
Yeah. So now, and another one thing that in recent times, I hope we don't have another George Floyd situation come to the U.S. and how we did last year in the summertime. But There was a no-knock warrant issued in Kentucky where a young man lost his life again to the hands of police. Any thoughts on no-knock warrants? And I want to start this question. I want to lead off with this question, giving it to Rod, because you're the one that have the years in law enforcement. How do you feel, my brother, about no-knock warrants?
Well, the thing is, I'm going to explain what I don't know if everybody knows what a no-knock warrant is. A no-knock warrant is basically you go to the courts and you get a search warrant where you're allowed to execute that search warrant between a certain amount of hours, right? Most likely it's early in the morning where people are asleep, and you don't have to knock or announce yourself as the police before you hit that door. All right. So the thing is, the no-knock warrant is used for the element of surprise. They don't want people to see them coming or whatever. Yes, I have done no-knock warrants myself. I mean, I've never had any incidents where anything is going wrong. It's definitely based on how much research that those officers have done on that place. Sometimes the officers they don't do their due diligence, and sometimes they hit the wrong place, the wrong house, or the wrong apartment. You know what I'm saying? And that's when no-knock warrants become a bad thing, because they're not doing their due diligence to make sure that they got the right apartment, the right house, the right location. Those are the most of the time that no-knock warrants go wrong. But I do feel in law enforcement that they need some sort of element of surprise when dealing with criminals. You don't want to let people know you're coming, because things can turn very ugly very quickly. But in this situation, I'm not completely educated about what happened with this situation. I think they're still looking into it, but pretty much that's how I see no-knock warrants. They're just based on the element of surprise. That's all.
So my thing is like this is my whole thing with the police. And Miranda, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You already noticed this person's supposed to be at this address, right? Say you're at 123 Jefferson Street. And you know he's going to be there. This is where you already have the information. Now, when you're surround the house already, have a helicopter out the can, and why do you have to knock and then just... Well,
the thing is, actually, it's supposed to be, that's why I tell you about the due diligence of the officers. Technically, before you do a search warrant on location, it's supposed to be set on and watched. That's how they do it in New York. Like, that location's been watched since the night before you're going to hit it, to make sure, and you're supposed to take notes on how many people are going in and out of the location, how many people are in there before the warrant was executed, and how many people left or what have you. So like I said, sometimes, not all the time, the officers do what they're supposed to do, and that's how sometimes these mistakes happen.
I think.
But go ahead.
No, and I was just wondering. You can tell me if I'm wrong. As I recall, like I think no-knock warrants were originally for, like, let's say, active shooter or something where someone's life was in danger originally when they put together, and I think it kind of turned into something else where it just became almost like, all right, there's drug activity going on in the home and or in a place, and then we'll enter on that, and so I don't know if, as I understand it's that, but what's troubling about Kentucky is they also have, I believe they're a stand your ground state as well, so let's say
I don't know if Kentucky is a stand your ground state.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I heard that they were,
but
yeah, I don't know Florida is, but
the execution of no-knock.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if Kentucky is, but I know that Florida is definitely a stand your ground law. But the thing is, no-knock warrants are executed to basically get inside a premise that has drugs, guns, some sort of illegal activity going on. That's what no-knock warrants were pretty much for. Pretty much anything with active shooters, that's basically, you don't need a warrant for that. That you go in and you got to do what you got to do. Okay. But mostly, nine times out of 10, they get information from somebody that has been inside the location, as people say, a snitch, and basically they go back to the police, tell that this stuff is in there or they've seen it, and then they execute the warrant. And that's basically what it is. And like I said, no-knock warrant is because they don't want to broadcast that they are coming. So that's the element of surprise by not knocking and hit that door.
Gotcha. Right? So in other news, our brother Jay-Z, billionaire Jay-Z, has struck a new a liquor deal with Hennessy. I think is Hennessy bought into his into this deal, I believe, something like that. For a couple of M's, So what do you think about that, guys? Jay-Z teaming up with Hennessy.
More money.
More
man.
money.
Yeah,
Champ.
I mean,
Distribution from them, aren't they? Isn't he? So it's like you got.
I mean,
I think he bought. I think he had the company himself, and I think what happened was he wound up with distribution from them. So now he's got that national, that worldwide distribution, man. So he's about to get.
That's the hardest thing is for you to get a distributor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think Jay-Z and Dame Dash owned the liquor before, but they couldn't distribute it.
Yeah.
They, I think it was
It's
only
not like
sold
that,
in 40 Club. But the distribution deal is everything. If you can't get that liquor all over the place, I mean, you can't make a lot of money. So I mean, Hennessy, you know how we always talk about Hennessy. You can't lose with Hennessy.
No.
Can't lose at all.
I think you know what I think what they're doing is giving a good model to you think about Jay-Z and Beyonce. Both of them, I think, are just high school graduates, hardworking people, have been showing people different ways to leverage their success and popularity in making excellent business moves. And I think it's phenomenal that they're able to do that. And I think they're making such wonderful steps that it's inspiring other people. One thing, which is on a side note, that I'm a little surprised. I'm a little surprised that they're allowing their daughter to be as exposed as she is. That I'm surprised that she's already in the industry. She's already an entertainer herself, and I'm a little surprised by that. I thought they would guard her a little better than that because when it comes to your childhood, obviously you can't turn that back. But you look at their children are going to be managing an empire one day, and I just think it's a phenomenal story from where they came from and where they are now. So kudos to them.
So I think like as we all know, Beyonce, Jay-Z are brand themselves, and most likely they're probably going to do the same thing with their kids, where pretty much once they create you as a brand, then you can sell anything. So because you can be. So now basically they're brand themselves. He buys into a liquor company, and he can market this liquor himself, just taking photos with it, putting in videos, commercials, or whatever. It's going to blow. That's what everybody's doing now. They're tying entertainers to liquor brands, and they're blowing as a result of it. So I think this is going to be no different.
Price always sells, man.
Yeah. So what's about to come? America's governor, brother. I want to ask you guys a question. How you feel about our man Cuomo right now, governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo right now? What are your thoughts? It's looking kind of shady for him. Like he messed up the thing with the nursing homes. They're saying he's been touching a little booty, maybe a little looks here and there. So what do you guys thoughts on?
All right. So this is the thing.
It's looking crazy.
When it comes to, first of all, I think it was a bad optic to write the book about managing the pandemic while the pandemic is still going on. I think that just seemed a little self-serving, and I think that may have kind of drew a lot of negative attention. And ultimately, like you just said, once you take on that moniker of America's governor, much like Giuliani took it on as America's mayor, I just think it gives you a lot more scrutiny and a lot more eyes. As far as him being accused of inappropriate sexual misconduct, I think we still have to give people, we still have to kind of take a wait and see approach. There should be some due process, but I will say this just from the outside, it is starting to look really, really bad. I mean, I don't know, some people say where there's smoke, there's fire. I can just tell you it's starting to get warm. It's starting to heat up, and so
eyes are burning.
It's looking bad. So I would hope, because remember, this was a person that initially we thought had his sight set on the White House, and the Republicans are definitely, they're looking for this fall. And I'll be honest with you, they're saying a lot of Democrats are not backing him either. So a lot of people are saying that
they're pulling away.
I think that was the play. I think that was it politically, man. I don't like to get into conspiracy theories and all of that, but I think there are plenty of people who are rather gleeful about his the dent being put in his image right now, on both sides of the aisle, actually.
Well, if you give people ammunition, they're going to use it.
Oh, absolutely. And that's politics. Sure. That is politics. Yeah. So
yeah. But I think reason he wrote the book at that time, though, Kelvin, not to say it was the right time, but because his approval ratings were so high at the time.
Yeah,
makes sense.
That's why he wrote the book at that time. And how all this thing came out, because Letitia James came out with her numbers and they didn't match his numbers. That's how this thing got rolling.
Letitia James does not play. I mean, she does not play. She has been working her way up. Now, I'll say this, just for anybody out there that's listening, out of being respectful. For instance, now all the stuff that you see about Beyonce, stuff like that, you have never ever seen anything regarding she and I quote in our relationship. Never. Because I'm saying, just as a man, I want to have that type of respect. So I always try to keep that out the press. And we both did. True, y'all never saw anything with us, right? So that's what I'm saying. See how
we didn't see anything at all with you guys.
Thank you. And that's the compliment. That's the compliment to me. Because there are times TMZ wanted me to, spill the tea, but I wasn't gonna do that. But I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're a respectful guy, Kelvin. You're not gonna. Yeah, you're not gonna.
I was raised right.
I know. The guy's a class act. He's not gonna kiss and tell. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about Shaft.
So let me. I want to talk about little sports. We brothers, and it's like a barbershop talk. It's talks. I think Kyrie Irving came out and said it looked changing the logo of the NBA to Kobe Bryant as the logo. And he said because Black kings have built this industry, built the NBA, which I totally agree with him on that. What are you guys' thoughts on Kobe Bryant becoming the logo of the NBA?
I don't agree. I do agree. I recognize the contributions that African Americans have made to the league. But if anybody were going to get it, obviously you can't do the Jordan logo, who made the game international. But you have to think about Bird and Magic. And if anybody, to me, the greatest Laker ever is Magic Johnson in my estimation. And I would not give it to Kobe simply because he died. I don't think the logo is based on a memorial. You know what I mean? And so as a result, Kobe did a lot of great things. Kobe was an exceptional talent. So when I say this, I don't want to hear from Snoop Dogg. I don't want nobody to try to come at me. I'm just saying, I do think that if anybody, and Jerry West is open to somebody changing it. Jerry West went to 9 finals and won 1. Was the MVP once, even on a losing team in the finals. He's a tremendous. Jerry West is executive, as good as an executive as he was player. But I do think if anybody, I would give it to Magic.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, Magic to me, and I love Magic, but much of his fame and much of his mystique was so tied to Larry Bird. You know what I mean? And I don't think that. I think Kobe gets a lot of credit for being the man after Jordan. He kind of carried, like Jordan set the stage, and then Kobe and I can make the argument that Kobe kind of carried it. You know what I mean? Onward. You know what I mean? He just took it, and not that you can't necessarily get higher than that, but he definitely was a good steward of being the face of the NBA, and he also gets a lot of credit for taking it international. He was huge in China, you know what I mean? And you have to look at it in those terms as well. So, I mean, I get what you're saying with regard to Jerry West, and maybe it is time, or maybe we can kind of consider changing it around. I wish Kyrie kind of had, and not that I'm saying he isn't wrong, but I wish he kind of hadn't said it the way he said it. You know what I mean? Because there are going to be certain people who are going to take offense to that. And I don't know, those people buy tickets too.
That's the Kyrie brand. That's the Kyrie brand.
Yeah, I understand.
If there's a way to say something wrong, he's mad.
And that's his brand, but I don't necessarily think that,
I don't think he said anything wrong.
No, listen.
Listen, you call a spade.
Right. Actually, listen, you can listen. Being right and saying a thing, it's two different things. You know what I mean? So I'm not arguing whether or not.
I think the issue is what, and I think if I'm not wrong, I think what Derek is saying is once you bring the racial element in, because you can actually make a case for this without bringing the racial element into it. Yeah, you can actually make a case. So once you do that, then you automatically have some people saying you just want to do it because he's black and because he died. Whereas if you're just like, I think he was such a great player, then because now the race thing becomes part of the story.
And it takes over the story.
It does. So some people, some detractors with that, whether it's right or wrong, you still have it.
No, I agree. I agree with what you're saying, Kelvin, about whether Kobe Bryant should be the new logo or whatever. But I do agree that it should be changed. I mean, don't get me wrong, Jerry West was back in his time. He was a great player, but there are so many players now that have achieved so much more than Jerry West. You know what I'm saying? And I think the logo should reflect the dynamics of the league. You know what I'm saying? The thing is, Jerry West was like, what year was that? Like that was like in the 60s, right?
Yeah,
it was a while back.
Yeah, it's a while back. So I mean, like, there's too many other players that, like I said, achieve more than Jerry West, and I do think it should be changed. I think it should reflect the league.
And the reason why I say you can talk about race because we talk about the NBA. NBA are all the sports were first on always addressing the racial issue.
Correct.
So we got to like it's the elephant in the room.
Yeah,
so you got to talk about those kind of things. We got to talk about ownership in how many owners are black in the NBA, right? You get those kind of things. You look at managerial issues like it's going on. Even when you got coaches, the change in the guard when it's like why Mark Jackson don't have a job.
Well, look, but would you give it to Bill Russell over Kobe? What I'm saying is
why? Because NBA when Bill Russell was playing was still on tape delay. Magic Johnson, I can see your argument because when Magic and Larry was going at it, they started playing the games live. Well, Jordan they started making golden games more live. Bill Russell, they couldn't get his mama to watch the game on
now.
TV.
Nobody saw him play. Nobody saw him play, man.
But do you do this if Kobe Bryant's alive right now?
Yeah, I think you still could say it. I think you can still make the same.
You put Kobe Bryant over Michael Jordan.
Only reason Jordan, like Rob, we talked before. Jordan already has a brand, and he already has a logo. So he has a logo. So you got to take Mike out of it. I could give the argument for Kobe and Magic. I could see that argument, but when Derek said that, it made me think Magic. A lot of his stuff was tied to Larry Bird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then you got to also realize too, that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson duo that brought NBA back.
No, and that was because of and the end of the line. What was it? Race.
Yeah, correct. And at the end of the line, you're right. They loved that they had the great white hope that played basketball against this great black athlete. They that's what that was with Larry Bird.
Even LA, that's true. Even LA versus Boston, you had the limelight of Hollywood, and you had this kind of gritty, Eastern, cold weather city. And so, I think it was,
Yeah. Well, the thing is too, you can still change the logo of the NBA and not make it a person. You do realize that too.
Yeah,
that's true. But like I said, like still having Jerry West as the logo of the thing, I think it's time to give it a change. That's just my personal opinion. Like I said, there's a whole bunch of athletes we can name all day that have achieved a lot more than Jerry West.
Right. I say, wait, unpopular opinion. Wait until LeBron James retires and makes him the NBA logo. He's the most complete basketball player.
Don't even respond to that. That's my nephew. That's my nephew doing that. He's trolling us because he and I have that.
I see the last thing.
He's trolling us because we have this magic. I mean, the Michael Jordan, LeBron debate forever. And Kobe, by the way, is his guy. He believes Kobe is the greatest player to ever breathe air on this planet.
He was pretty good.
He's 23 years old. That's what they're supposed to do.
You know what? When I think about when we have this conversation, right? I think about how when I say that Jerry West, there's so many other people that achieved more than Jerry West, and then he gets the honor of being like the NBA logo. It reminds me of Carl Lewis, what he achieved in the Olympics compared to what Bruce Jenner achieved and how big Bruce Jenner was. He just won, I think, one medal, if I'm not mistaken. One medal in the decathlon, where Carl Lewis just destroyed the Olympics and never got the clout that he got because white America wanted to market Bruce. And that's basically it. It's a similarity there. They don't have to achieve as much as we do in order to be successful.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's true. I mean, that is what it is. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we're talking about legendary players. I'm just saying, I don't even know what a Kobe. Someone mentioned the Mamba mentality, which is so true because I think that has transcended basketball. And I mean, I think there are different ways. I would love to see, one of the awards. Rookie of the Year, MVP, or something like that named after him. But I do think it's time to change the logo. I think it's a lot of branding has changed. You have to do that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That like you said, if it's a 60s and 70s logo, it's time because the handle that Jerry West had, these boys today, forget it. I mean, this
correct. And plus the shorts were too small back then too.
But what they're doing now, man, amazing.
Yeah. So one thing we forgot to do, and we are like the barbershop talk, is talk about one of the great contributors to hip hop music was our dear brother Prince Markie D, who passed away suddenly from a heart attack at the age of 52, a day before his birthday. Any thoughts? Wow. Any time, your first time ever hearing the Fat Boys record, anything like that? Anybody want to say real quick?
Damn. I go back to Crush Groove. Crush Groove
is the first thing came to my mind as well. Yeah. Remember when you saw Crush Groove for the first time, man, in the movies, and then what happened when you came back to school?
I couldn't even get in the theater. It was sold out everywhere. Crush Groove. Yeah. And the crazy thing was the songs that Run DMC did in Crush Groove were actually old already.
Yeah,
they were actually old. Those songs had been out, and then they did the movie. But the nation was so starved, the young people were so starved for this new movement that I remember my sister got a ticket, and she was able to see it, and I couldn't get in. And she was in there with her friends and stuff. But I mean, you just heard about it. But Run DMC was just, I mean, we had never seen anything quite like it. Yeah. You know, I think Curtis Blow said that. He said that the first rap star was. I heard the first rap star was Curtis Blow. First superstar was LL. But in between there, Run DMC to me should be giving credit to me as possibly the greatest rap group. To me, they are, because to me, their production, Rick Rubin had them doing stuff in 83.
Disorderlies.
You know, Disorderlies. But no, but Prince Markie D, the funny thing was, I never really thought he was that fat back in the day in comparison to the other.
Yeah.
No. He was the least skinny fat. He was a skinny fat boy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Skinny fat boy.
It was so funny though.
Calling him that myself, I said no, he's a skinny fat boy.
Yeah. So with that, you know, like you said, shout out to Prince Markie D. His soul rest in peace. Jamie, can you take us to our first commercial break? Welcome back after the break. So, recent times we saw, like, for the COVID pandemic, we saw a lot of people talking about education, and a lot of people was like, "Yo, we're tired of how schools are going." We heard Black people talking about opening up their own schools, homeschooling, and talking about this charter school movement and stuff like that. So we're very, very, very fortunate tonight to have a bad brother, man. When I say this brother is bad, this brother has been on TV, CNN, MSNBC. He's been on Roland Martin. He's one of the leading voices of education in our communities. He's a motivational speaker, renowned known. This brother has more bow ties than the Nation of Islam. I'm talking about this is a bad man. This man has his own theme music when he walks into a room. Can you bring in our dear brother, Dr. Steve Perry? He doesn't let us down. He doesn't let us down.
Thank you very much, everybody. Y'all have a good evening.
Dr. Perry, welcome, brother. Thank you for coming on tonight, man. We truly honored to have you. Oh, somebody muted him.
I had muted because the Chinese food just got here.
Oh, okay.
When you see my company walking behind me,
hey man, this is how we are now. We live. You know how? Listen, think about the kids that we deal with. We see stuff in their backgrounds happen. Teachers are teaching stuff. All kind of stuff going on, man.
And that's really what it is. One of the things that bothers me to my core is when these teachers go soft on our children and they they keep saying, we want to go back to school. What's stopping you? Go.
Yeah.
The car don't work no more. Trains don't go. Like what's holding you up? You keep moving the line because you really don't want to go back, which is telling you more about what you really want to do before that than what you want to do now. Because for me, I can't wait to get back. Like we've been back since the fall, and you see, like you just said, when you can see in the room, you see one child sitting on one bed doing doing whatever class they're doing. Another child sitting on the other bed doing whatever they're supposed to be doing. And this child's got his headphones on. He's sitting there like this, trying to pay attention. This is not cool. And we can do better than this. And so actually one of the coolest outcomes of these circumstances God rest his soul, so many people passed away, including Prince Marky D. But we have begun to say, you know what? I can actually do better than what it was that they were doing for my kids. And that means it's game time. When Black folks start to wake up, it's a problem.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So Dr. Perry, I worked in community schools for a number of years, right, in New York City, in Brooklyn, New York. And some of the things always came up, because you have a charter school. A lot of people in public education hate charter schools. What are your thoughts on why do you think that is, and how can we change that mindset? Because I know what kind of charter school you have, but what do you think that is?
Well, what it is that they have no idea what they're talking about. How could you hate something that you have no experience in? Very few of them have ever even gone into a charter school. If you ask them what a charter school is, they'll say it's a private school. Wrong. They'll say it is meant to privatize education. Ask them, what does it mean to privatize education? Y'all already gave up education a while ago when you let the teachers unions come in. In 1968, the Black people wanted community control. And so what we did was a school, Ocean Hill, Brownsville, Black teachers and a principal and parents said, we want to be able to hire who we want to be able to hire to work with our children. And the overwhelmingly white United Federation of Teachers in New York went on strike 3 times, shut it down, said, you will not do it. That's who is seeding that conversation. Those same racist people who fought to make sure that they could maintain absolute control of what your children do and don't learn are the same people who are in charge now. So would you trust them with your children? A charter school is a public school, whatever that means to some people, that allows people like us to decide that we're going to teach what we want to teach to our children. In that same time in 1968, the United Federation of Teachers decided to take out 2 chapters on Malcolm X in Harlem because they found it was too incendiary. Yeah, I know why they don't want us. They don't want us to show that what they've been feeding us, telling us that it's poverty that is why the schools are failing. It's the parents are not involved. We need resources. No, that's not what it is. The resources that we lack are belief in our children. And so charter schools represent an existential threat to those people who wish to maintain the status quo, which is a system that employs overwhelmingly white middle-class people from outside the community who would never send their children to those schools and who don't ever send their children to their schools. They just don't. That's their job. That's not their school. And until such time as we start pushing back and saying, tell me what's wrong with Black and Latin people starting schools in our own community. Isn't that public? Isn't that what a public school is supposed to do? And then you take it one step further. You learn that through the Urban Renewal Act, through housing covenants and other strategies, African Americans were put in ghettos. I mean, there's no real reason why you go from one school to the other than the fact that it was zoned. Why is it zoned? So that Black and Latin children stay far away from white kids. It's just a simple thing. So why do those people hate this? Because they don't understand it, first. Second, because they see us as an existential threat. We accepted a class of seniors this year, meaning that they were seniors. They just came to us from scratch. Like we didn't know them at the beginning of the year in Harlem. brought in the class of seniors, 100% of those kids are going to go to a 4-year college this year. Why would you have an issue with that? Why would anyone have an issue with that? Like, what's your beef? Why is that a problem? Yeah. They say, well, you take all the kids from, no, I don't take them from anywhere. They left because they don't want to be with you. Mm-hmm. So why is that my problem? They won't leave if you provide a better resource. They don't want us to wake up to the truth. And the truth is what Malcolm is credited with saying, which is, if you put your head in the lap of a man with a noose, whose fault is it that you were hung?
That's right.
We can't keep going back to this system and expecting the system is going to do anything other than what it's done. And just because they hire a couple black folks who work there, make them principals and vice principals and all that, they're not changing the system. It's not going to change the system. What changes the system when brothers like you say, you know what? I got this. We'll open our own school. We'll hire who we want to hire. We'll fire who we want to fire. And we'll get her done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Perry, I want to ask you a question. Before the show, me and you spoke, right? I explained to you my background. I just wanted to know, what is your opinion on police officers being in the schools?
So it's not so much the police officers as in cops themselves, who's in the school and for what purpose. The truth is, I think it's a good idea for the police to have a relationship with people in the community because things happen. And there are times when we need to call on you because the child comes in and something bad has happened to her. And if you're a stranger to her, she's not gonna talk to you. But we needed to talk to you because something really bad happened to her at home, and we need that conversation to occur. But you're not an educator, and you should not be put in situations where you are disciplining children. That is ridiculous. That's just a sign of weakness of the people in the building. If you need cops to run your school, then you should quit your job.
Correct.
Today.
Correct.
Like, for real, don't go back.
Yeah.
If you need to threaten a child with, I'm gonna call the police on you, then you should stop working at that school. And maybe you should get out of education altogether.
Altogether, brother. I've been in many rooms with that. So let me ask you a question, Dr. Perry. Somebody brought up, when do you think you should start teaching Black history to our children, and what parts should we start off at?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I didn't know there was a time that you shouldn't teach it. We were buying our sons books about Black people to teach them how to read. So I don't know that we should pull Black history, so to speak, out as if it's a thing like science, because Black history takes place in science. It is part of everything. And so I think that you start teaching it at inception, as people talk about reading to the baby when it's in the mother's womb. Why not read there? And recognize that the complexity of the African-American experience is such that it's not just about the people who we agree with who are Black. That's part of the problem. We don't have to make every Black person a Democrat. We don't have to make every Black person a civil rights worker. They could be any number of people, and they could be on the other side. Until we start to understand the beauty of the Black experience in its totality, we can't understand who we are today and where we're going.
Dr. Perry, if I can ask, it seems today with pop culture, as far as video is concerned, the social media, I think young people don't necessarily associate education with success. Those that seem to be affluent seem to do it through either athletics or entertainment in some capacity. Have you noticed that people now have stopped believing in, I guess, young people, that a great education is the path to necessarily whatever the American dream is or was?
It's interesting that you say that. So today, I was having a conversation with one of our kids, and he was saying that he's going to go to a community college as opposed to going to the 4-year college that's prepared to give him money to play football. That's a tough conversation to have, because the first part of it is, if you were that good, you'd already know, son. Not a mystery.
They'll be knocking on your door.
it's a done deal. They know where you are. They're like the FBI. They actually know who you are.
Yeah. If they can find you in the Dominican Republic, they can find you in correct. So
find you anywhere.
Yeah.
So, there's always been hoop dreams. Like, remember that movie from the 90s?
Yeah.
There's always been that. I told y'all, I was watching this documentary on Pele. I mean, that was the 50s, right? But we've always had a certain idolatry towards athletes. They're big, strong, and the like. But I will tell you, I don't think Black people have given up on education. I think that many African Americans don't believe that education and educators believe in them. And that's where the problem lies. I feel like a lot of our kids and parents and grandparents, many of whom, when you do 3 generations, ain't even 50 years old, they're stacked so tightly on top of one another that in many cases they've actually had some of the same teachers in that same school.
Wow.
And so they don't believe that school is going to give them an opportunity. So for them, no different than a lottery ticket, no different than getting high, no different than getting drunk, there's this big hope, this big dream that they think only runs through letting their bodies be beaten up, that they're going to achieve their goals. So I don't know. We've always believed in athletics, even before people became rich as athletes. Joe Louis, right, was a whole bunch of people wanting to fight, right? He carried the hopes. He carried the hopes of Black America on his back, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Go ahead, Roger.
No, I was just going to say really quickly, Dr. Perry. I also think that's also a reason why a lot of kids gravitate to the gang culture, because they feel like the gang culture has their interests, more of their interests at heart than anybody else.
So I 100% agree with you that one of the main reasons why boys in particular affiliate with gangs, it's not, okay, you talk about the protection side of it, there's that, whatever. But it really has more to do with they actually believe these young brothers love them. They actually tell them that they love them.
Yeah, I'm your brother. I got your back. I'm your blood. Yeah.
In regard to that, though, we know, like, let's say we know the importance of, let's say, Black male teachers. All right, we've had research on that done, and how do we get more of them to become teachers, and to become sort of like, role models, or just something that they can model themselves after? And how do we get more? How do we get that input from, let's say, HBCUs or anything? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So there are a lot of ways that could happen. I mentioned to you before about 1968 teacher strikes in New York City. In the 60s, teachers unions created civil service examinations, much like they have for the police and fire, right? And you guys understand what the civil service examinations were meant to do. They were supposed to keep certain people out.
Correct.
And so the same thing occurs in teaching. In teaching, there are civil service examinations that you have to take. It's like a praxis exam is what it's called. And what we know is that 65% of Black people who take the praxis exam, fail it the first time they take it. Yet we know that the praxis exams passage is no indication of your ability to teach. So it begs the question, why then do you have the exam if all it does is stop Black people from becoming teachers? And teaching is a really good job. It's a good job in a lot of ways, because what it does at the very least is it allows you to have a schedule similar to your children. It also it allows you to do things with your children in the community, so you could become a productive member of the community. You get out when everybody else does. You coach youth football or basketball or cheer or chess or what have you. You could become a meaningful, engaged member of the community. There's so many things that you can do. And so the question then becomes, why is it that more people are not teachers? It's not because of some of the things that we think. You'll hear people say, well, teachers don't get paid enough. That's actually not true. In New York, it's the average teacher is making almost $80,000 a year.
Yep.
I just want to point that out. I want to stop and pause. I want to pause there real hard. The average teacher in New York City is making $80,000 a year for 180 days.
And brother, tell them how much the principals and assistant principals make, because I know the answer to this. Sorry,
Depending on where you are, $150, $175, $200.
Yeah.
$200,000 to be a principal of a failed school. I want to, again, I just want to stop. Like we're gonna have a conversation. If you want to know just how, you'll hear people say teachers are underpaid and overworked, go into the parking lot.
Look at their cars. That's right.
You got a point.
Look at their cars.
Now, I've always wanted to know, Dr. Perry, because I'm sure there's a myriad of things that you could have done. Where did you get your drive from? I've always believed, and I've worked in the gospel ministry for 30 years, and I do that because I was called to do it. And I always believe that teaching is or should be a calling. I don't think a person should just go into it, because I think you have to have some skin in the game when it comes to, I think you should have a passion for young people. But tell people a little bit about you, about what made you become Dr. Perry.
So I was born on my mother's 16th birthday. If you're Black in America and you grew up from the 70s backwards, chances are you grew up in a rough situation. I mean, it's just kind of the thing. We all got the markings of people who've grown up under those circumstances. If nothing else, you were Black, right? Mm-hmm. Even if you weren't poor, you were Black. So poverty and is trumped by Blackness every day.
You're from New York?
I am not. I'm from Connecticut. And so lived in public housing until I was in my early 20s. And my mother was on the Tenants Association in our project. So I don't know if she was a president or vice president, because there was only 2 people on the Tenants Association. But I used to go to the meetings with her. And when I was there, I would see her talking and asking for things that I thought we should, like, even as a child, it seemed like, why is my mother having to ask y'all for this? Like this seemed, even I can understand that this is like, why wouldn't you make sure that our houses don't look like we live in squalor? Like, why is that? Why is she asking you for that? Like, we didn't do anything wrong. We pay our rent. I know that. It may not be a lot, but we pay it. And so early on, I felt like I had to do something. I don't know. I thought I was a superhero. I remember one time I watched Superman, the TV show, and the black and white TV show. And I remember he used his eyes to bend steel, like lasers. And I went outside and I looked at a basketball hoop, and I squinted. And I was like, I could bend if I want to. I just don't really want to right now. So I couldn't be convinced. I couldn't be convinced even by the facts that what I believed was impossible. And so fast forward, I had started a not-for-profit organization that worked with kids who could be the first in their family to go to 4-year college. I had gone through one. It's an Upward Bound program. And so I started one. And what was happening was I would work with kids during the summer for 6 weeks to get them to a place where they felt confident in their academic ability and they saw themselves as smart. And then I would put them back in the neighborhood schools, and it wouldn't even take 2 weeks, man. Like everything that it wouldn't even, sometimes it'd be like, I drop them off there on Monday. By like Wednesday, I'm getting calls from the school like, yo, you need to come get your boy Tavon. Like, what is Tavon doing? Like, what do you mean? What is he, what did he do? And then I was going into the schools, and when I would go into the schools, I could easily find the lowest classes because I just looked for the classes with the most Black kids in it. And many of those kids were my kids. And I had them over the summer, and I know that they weren't low because I actually had the data. I had the test to show that they actually were not low. And I remember one time I went and I asked a school that was supposed to be a suburban school where my kids were, my students were. I asked them, why is it that all my kids keep ending up in this goofy class called extended algebra, which was 3 semesters of algebra? So they would take algebra in their freshman year, first and second semester, and then they would take algebra again, same algebra, in their sophomore year, and then they wouldn't take another math class again until their junior year, which would be an extended geometry class, which meant in terms of the SAT, they wouldn't have the requisite math that they needed in order to do well on the SAT. So I was just a kid. I was young, and I was just asking around. I don't know real mission, you dig? Like, it wasn't a big, like, I wasn't trying to hustle anybody. I just wanted to understand how were the kids I had during the summer who took algebra based upon the textbooks that you gave me from your school with teachers from your school. How is it that I had them over the summer? Even if they got a C, that should be justification for them not to be in a class that's actually extended, right? Like, they already passed it for 6 weeks. They passed the first 6 weeks of the class. Sorry. So just trying to figure out what it was that they needed to do. And every time I asked the question, nobody had an answer. And you know, my grandma would say, bless their hearts. Somebody said, well, if you get us the list of the kids who are from your program, we'll take them out of the class. And I said, well, yeah, like I already knew that was going to happen. I'm taking them out. But why do they keep ending up there? Like, why am I having this conversation with y'all every year? And it's just because of their color. It had nothing else to do. They didn't have, I asked them, is there a test that I could prep them for during the summer so that we won't keep having to have this conversation? And the lady was really kind. She was a sweet lady, this older white lady. She was, you know, I'm sorry, but I get that you're sorry, but like, why is it happening? And what I found out was that in the 7th and 8th grade, guidance counselors and teachers were recommending kids for certain level classes based upon their behavior or what they perceived their behavior to be. And you can imagine all the kids who were Black and Latin kept ending up in these lower, they kept ending up in these lower classes. And so I finished here. The real kick in the pants was when my man, who I'd gone to college with, who was college educated, his wife's a nurse, he called me. His kids had gone to this particular school in a place called Windsor, Connecticut, which is outside of Hartford. Mm-hmm. And he said, hey, my daughter just got recommended for this leadership program. I said, what leadership program? Yeah, there's no leadership program in that school, because I worked in the school. Like you was a cop, I worked as, you know, somebody who was outside. I worked in the school and I knew which programs they had. You know what I mean? I said, well, they have a new leadership program? He said, yeah. And he told me the name of it. Now, he was a teacher in another city. And I said, what's the name of it? He told me the name of it. I said, bruh, that is not a leadership program. That's a program for bad behaving kids. What they do is they pull them out of the school day, out of their regular classes, and then put them in this group session. And they'll sit there in this group for a whole period or two, talking about their quote unquote problems. Nobody's ever asked the teachers, like, do y'all make them talk about their problems? Because maybe that's really what the problem is, not the kids. Maybe it's the grown people working in school. And I just said, you know, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't keep sending kids back to this foolishness. And I know, and I knew it. You understand? Like, and it didn't mean these were mean people, but they were doing bad things to kids. They were really doing bad things to kids. And it was like carbon monoxide. By the time you recognize it, it's a wrap. And they were making these decisions for kids who were 10, 11, 12 years old. And once they made that decision, they put them in this lower track. The kids couldn't get out. When they were pulling his daughter out of the class, she was missing class time. Or they had a schedule for kids like her. So they left a blank in their school day. So they leave a blank in their school day so they can only put them in lower classes. That's just that regular garden variety systemic racism. And so I said, you know what? I could suck at least as bad as they are at running schools. I'll give it to them.
Let me ask you a question, Doctor. Since, you know, we saw in 2020 we saw the discrimination in education because of the pandemic and the resources and stuff like that. How do you see how did it affect your school, for one thing, and everything? Like, how did you adjust to doing it? And now, if you was chancellor, like we know, we've seen our chancellor just step down in New York City. If you was chancellor in Connecticut or New York City, how would you make the steps to bring in that divide of technology and information closer together than what we've seen in the pandemic? How would you prepare if we would go through something like this again? And how did it affect you before?
So one of the reasons why I'm not the chancellor is because of my answer that I'm going to give you. I was asked years ago by Cory Booker to consider becoming the commissioner of Newark Public Schools. And I said to him, bro, you don't want me to do that. Like, you got aspirations other than this. What I'm going to do, you ain't going to like.
I feel you on that.
I'm going to solve your problem. But
you're not going to be too popular with doing it. Yeah.
No.
Correct.
I would free the children from the failed school system. It's just what it is. The school system is designed, maintained, and funded to destroy Black and Latin children. And if you think anything other than that, then you haven't been paying attention for the past 300 years. It's just the way it is. And just because they hire a person who is a person of color, a person who comes from the community, that person by her or himself can do nothing to that system. The system is designed to get the results that it consistently gets. So it's not you'll often hear people say it's a resource gap. That's just not true. It actually isn't true. They'll say, well, in the suburbs, they get more money than they do in urban centers. That's not always the case. In fact, if you want to know where we spend the most money on children, it's in prison. So it's not money. So then the best place, therefore, if we're just going where the money goes, is to send a child to prison. But that's not what we're going to say. The truth is that the biggest resource gap is the belief gap in schools where, and those of you who've worked in schools, you hear how people talk to kids. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Like, we keep acting like we didn't hear that teacher talk to kids like that. You're like, yo, wow. If his mother heard you say that, you would get scraped.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, that you get away with that because nobody can hear you. And because when the kid says that you said what you said, you're going to already clean up and be professional. And I don't understand why he's saying that. I would never say anything like that. Blah, blah, blah. Our kids are under attack by the people who are being paid to educate them. And the attack comes in many forms. One attack is what George Bush called the low expectations and soft bigotry, which is, oh no, I don't think you should have to do this. Like, we've had it in my own schools where people will say, this year, we had a teacher say, and he's a brother, say, it's unfair for you to be given this test. Bruh, are you serious right now? I mean, you out your mind.
Yeah.
It's not a resource. That's just lowering the expectations because you think that they might fail it. What does that even mean? It doesn't make sense. We have to see the truth for what it is. Dr. King said, American schools do not know what to teach or how to teach. That was Dr. Martin Luther King in his final book, Where Do We Go From Here? Community Chaos, in the final chapter. Dr. King said that the schools were not serving our children. It's not about, you'll hear the stories of, no, we don't have any textbooks. Why? Why don't you have textbooks? Why? What are you spending your money on? You sure ain't cutting no teacher salaries. You sure ain't cutting no principal salaries. The buildings are all paid for.
Let me ask you, how would you tell the parents to advocate? What would be your first thing? Because I know, like, you want to leaders on helping parents navigate through the systems. How would you first get the parents to start advocating? What would you first tell them how to advocate for their child?
In New York City, we have choice in New York. So I would say, stop taking the most convenient route to education, meaning the school that's closest to your house, and pick the school that's closest to your heart. Choose another school. Vote with your feet. You can't make somebody love your child. And to love your child doesn't mean that you think that they're sweet and nice and kind. It means to push them academically. And that's not what they're doing. You can go and see. When we opened our school in Harlem, 95% of our sixth graders and 94% of our seventh graders were below grade level in math and in ELA, English Language Arts. They came from all 5 boroughs. 99% of our sixth graders and 100% of our seventh graders were below grade level in math. 100%. Do you honestly believe that those children are just all dumb? Like, seriously? Give them an iPhone, give them this technology, give them anything, and they can do anything anybody in the world can do with it. I'll put kids from Harlem, from the Bronx, from Brooklyn, from anywhere, Staten Island, all 5 boroughs. Give them this technology and put them in front of anyone on earth, South Korea, North Korea, China, Switzerland, anywhere. They can rock with them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
I worked at Boys and Girls. Our debate team beat kids in South Africa, all type of things. Our kids were amazing. And, they were saying there's a failing school, but they tore ass. They whipped ass in debate. They whipped ass in debate, brother.
Dr. Bell, we have a question from Crystal. What do you think about alternative schools?
It depends on, I think that it's important that we have as many types of schools as possible. It's not the type of school that makes it good or bad. It's the way the school is run. So if I know that there are some children for whom the traditional academic experience is just not for them. It's just not. For whatever reason. It could be because of their interest. It could be because of trauma. It could be because of both. I don't know why. And, you know, having them wake up at 5 a.m. and get on a train and get to school by 6:30, it's just not for them. It's just not. So we have to have something different than the traditional brick and mortar, what you see. But go ahead.
I'm sorry. What are your thoughts on standard supplemental national Black agenda or Black educational system for us? Like a curriculum.
If you could get Black people to agree on what to serve at the family reunion, I'll be impressed. So let alone getting Black people to agree on which figures are important to discover through inquiry. So I think that there's a great deal to be said about some of the regionalism. There are people who we would consider heroic who are from the Midwest, but here on the East Coast, maybe not so much, Mm-hmm. We have our own people who we would rock with, who tell a different story. Then there's those people who lead to national prominence, who come from particular areas. I don't think that like in Connecticut, we passed a law that says that Black history must be taught in all schools. And you think let's go. Let me give you a little something about that. 4% of all teachers in the state of Connecticut are Black.
The 4%, brother?
4.
Wow.
So you passed a law to teach Black history, yet you've not passed a law to require Black people to teach it.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's like asking people to come in and teach Spanish who've never spoken Spanish before,
Correct.
but who love a chalupa.
Yeah.
But it's so crazy because you have schools. I went to Benedict College. We want to lead in schools of putting out Black teachers out in America. Do Connecticut and places like that, when you have My Brother's Keeper and stuff like that, do they actively go and recruit in our schools?
No, I told you why. The issue is because there's a lot that goes into this, but it starts with the fact that right now in New York and in Connecticut, let me give you a real world. So New York State, SUNY, decided that there were not enough people of color teaching. SUNY decided this. So what SUNY said was, what we're going to do is we're going to allow for the creation of an apprentice program, meaning that if a teacher, if we hire somebody who was a cop initially, who has got a bachelor's degree and wants to come back and teach math, then if he works at our school for a year and is satisfactory in his performance, as evidenced by him taking certain courses and doing what his principal says that he must do, then we can certify him to be a teacher in the state of New York. That seems like it makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really simple, right? Because that means that we could go to a place like Puerto Rico, we could go to Dominican Republic, we could go to Connecticut, we could go to anywhere, we could go to a college and say, talk to all the football players and say, hey, gentlemen, how many of y'all want to be teachers? The United Federation of Teachers, the teachers union, sued the state, and the state lost. Wow. And so now that apprenticeship program was killed by the United Federation of Teachers, who claims that they want to have diversity. And let me explain to you how you become a teacher now in New York City, the same way that you would have in 1968, which means you have to major in education as an undergrad. How many people major in education as an undergrad who are Black and male? Then you can go to an alternative route to certification, but you have to have a certain GPA. Many brothers who went to college on a sports scholarship, many, not all, but many. And then those that didn't, in many cases, came from low performing schools. And in the low performing schools, they were undereducated. So they struggled in many cases. Very few brothers come out of college with high GPAs. Just fact. Doesn't mean they're less intelligent. It just means that they just didn't come out with high GPAs. So they don't have a high. And then the other way you can get past some of these certifications is if you have a high SAT score. Again, African American males have some of the lowest SAT scores across the board. So here are all these systemic barriers in place. SUNY, the State University of New York, put in place a policy that would have made it possible for all of you brothers to become teachers. Be paid full salary, full benefits, and after just 1 year, you'd be a certified teacher. And the teachers union sued them and won.
Wow. It's sad, man. You know, we can go on forever, bro. I got this many questions still for you, but it's gonna be another date. So my last and final, this is the hardest question you probably got. Roland Martin never asked you this. Oprah never asked you this. TD Jakes, you probably never heard nothing like this before. What's your top 5 rappers of all time, brother?
So
here we go. Now we're talking.
You know, honestly, obviously, got to go with Big because he's big, right? It just doesn't. You just can't get past that. But this is where it starts to get dicey after that. I know Ye is crazy, but he's talented, like absurdly talented, in a way in which you just can't look past him. The same thing can be said, not the crazy part. Then you have to, like, we always look past KRS like he wasn't who he was.
25 albums. 25.
We have to think about, when we think about KRS, what we have to recognize is that he was a kid. Like, he was a young man saying the things that he was saying. He was that, like, we talk about woke, he was that then. And you could like rock a party with that.
Yeah.
And then for me, Chuck D is just.
Oh, that's my guy.
I mean,
I love Chuck.
To me, I tell people this all the time. Chuck D was more gangster than NWA because he really had the FBI on his ass. But you know, I try to tell people that people don't understand. Like, they said it for saying some real hood stuff. He had it for educating people and waking up white folks. That was more dangerous than the NWA. Yeah.
What people don't. I don't think, you know, we have these conversations about rappers and we're typically talking about sales, record sales. And, you know, like, you can't argue with Drake sold a lot of records. You can't argue with, like, a lot of people. Hammer sold a lot of records. Like, you can't argue with the fact that these cats sold a lot of records. But for me, I want an impact player. Like, I want to find people who, when the game is over, like, who do I look up and think, but they changed the way that we take music in. De La Soul, for me, as a crew.
Mm-hmm. Who's your last?
I would go with De La Soul as my crew.
Okay.
I would go with De La Soul as my crew because they changed, like, they took the consciousness of what was going on in that time. That black medallions, no gold, but then they took it to a whole other daisy age.
Yeah. Native tongue, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Perry, anything you want to promote? Anything you want to let the people know before we let you go?
So, real quick, actually, one, apply to our schools. Go to capitalprep.org. We are capitalprep.org because we want your children to come to our schools. And then 2, breaking news at this is the final season for Fix My Life, Iyanla Vanzant's Fix My Life. And so the final season is now, and the final episode is on March 15th. And I need y'all to watch that. I just need y'all to watch that.
March 15th.
Because we'll be in there. Nice. Thank you, gentlemen. I really do.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I'd love to have you come back again. Like, I would love to have you come back again, man. I could talk to you for 4 hours, man.
I'd be honored. I genuinely, and as I go, let me also say thank you for the work that you brothers do, not just up here, but what you do in real life. Cats don't understand the work that you do, and that sometimes I get to be on television and people think that I do something different than you. Let me be the first to say that you are the soldiers that are making things happen. So I deeply appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. It's been an honor to have you on the show.
Get to that Chinese food before it get cold, bro. Get to your Chinese food before it get cold.
We're about to go watch The Black Messiah.
Oh,
man.
We'll chop it up about that later on.
Before I go, let me tell y'all, you must watch this documentary called Mully. Mully. I'm telling you, get your family there. It is one of the best documentaries you will ever see in your life. I promise you. What is
it on? What's it on?
I don't want to tell you anything else about it. Just please watch it.
Well, what network?
No, network. What network is it on?
I think it is.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you so much. We love you, man. Keep fighting the fight for us, man. Thank you a lot, brother.
Have a great night.
Appreciate you. All right.
You big.
Dr. Perry dropped some deep stuff.
Dropped some deep stuff, man. A lot of knowledge, man. That was wonderful. Like I love talking to. I've been in rooms and conferences where I'm a speck compared to the white educators in the room. So like that felt good to see like his brothers like that out there. So I can't wait to talk to the brother again, man. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate the talk. And I want to make sure that we still keep on. So we still got a long fight to go. It's hard to see. Like it's crazy when he said 4%. That really messed my mind up. Like 4% in a state like Connecticut is one of the richest states in the country. I mean, you only got 4% of people look like the kids we are. Like kids in Danbury and places like that, where it's hard. You can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the one thing too he brought up about the teachers union, and me and you are very familiar with the teachers union. They do a lot of things to stand in the way of the progression of our children. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I've seen teachers. They got a very strong union. Some teachers should be fired, and they still keep their jobs. They protect them left and right. And sometimes teachers will go sit in this place called a rubber room, and they'll collect a check all year and done nothing.
Yeah, people don't understand. Like when teachers get tenured, a teacher can literally come into a room, sniff coke off somebody's body, and can't get fired. So it's really
not get fired.
The only thing you can't do is you can't hit or touch kids. That's the only thing. But it's a hard, strong union. That's strong. That union might be stronger than the police union, stronger than the sanitation union.
I would say it is. I would say it is.
As a father, I do respect the job that they do. You know what I mean? I don't have a problem with unions, and I respect the job that all teachers do. But that's a pretty frightening thing that that someone, like you said, like they can't get fired for any reason, and I wouldn't want them to. I think they do an incredible job. Some of them, most of them, I give them all. Well, try to give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't know if have some amazing teachers in our children's lives, that they are really still in touch with it a lot of ways. They still ask about my kids, so I respect that. But but it's just unfortunate that you have that.
So we have another educator coming in. Kelvin, can you bring in our next educator and tell a little bit about him?
Well, gentlemen, I got to tell you, I'm very, very excited. This is not only one of my closest friends in the world, but one of my favorite people in the world. I've known her since 2009. We went to grad school together, went to seminary together, actually. She is the senior pastor of the Church of the Resurrection in Harlem, New York. She is also my co-laborer in the gospel, a mother, a pastor, educator, the head of the Booker T. Washington Learning Center in East Harlem, New York, 325 101st Street in Harlem, New York. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the Let's Chop It Up family, my friend, the pastor, Kimberly Wright.
Well, hey, what's going on? What's going on, sister? How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm glad to be with you all.
Glad to have you.
Glad to have you. I haven't seen you in a long time.
I know. Too long. We got to figure that out. That's because COVID happened.
I don't know if the pastor remembers me. I was behind a camera last time I saw. But,
yes, I do. I absolutely do. Yes.
So, Pastor, I'm going to start with the first question. Since you said about COVID, how did COVID affect the community that you serve, and how did it affect the young people, and what have you been doing from 2020 to help out the community, and what are some of the things that you have seen?
Oh, Lord. I believe this could be a whole show by itself. So I will tell you that as soon as COVID happened, we had to shut down our after-school program, our preschool program. We were getting ready for summer camp, which did not happen last year. And right away, I think that we are just a church that's very rooted in our community. And so, it's kind of like, here's a crisis. The first thing is like, let's make sure everyone is safe. I'm not one of the pastors who is like, the blood of Jesus, we're going to keep coming to church and God is going to take care of us. I was like, okay, everybody go home. The Lord warned us, right? The writing is on the wall. Everybody go home and be safe and let's figure this all out. And then, we started getting the body count. And for me, it's personally very high, right? So I'm very grateful we have lost no one in our church to COVID, thank God. But right away, we knew what we were supposed to be doing. We saw that people were dying, and we started what we call a Let's Live campaign. So I was very concerned about all the teenagers who are out in the street not wearing masks. I know, like, it's not fashionable. It doesn't look cool. You look vulnerable, because you look like you're trying to protect yourself, and you're not supposed to try to protect yourself from nothing but maybe a bullet. Maybe you ain't even supposed to do that. I don't know. But I just saw a lot of young men hanging out way too much. And I know, our kids go home to parents and grandparents. We live in close proximity to one another here. And 2/3 of people who have died from COVID have died or who have been infected by family members, by people they live with. So, being concerned for not only our young people, but the people they live with who are very vulnerable. We gave out masks, we gave, water, food, we gave out other stuff to make getting a mask a conversation, and then to talk about safety. And then we opened our preschool back up, and now we have a remote learning lab. So we know our kids are home suffering. This is the worst thing that could have ever happened to our children. And let me just say that our children and our seniors, they are the superheroes. They are the warriors of COVID. Like, our kids are being decimated right now. We are losing our children, their mental health, their emotional well-being, their spiritual well-being. Physically, they're not playing, they're not outside, they're not active. They are depressed, they are anxious, they're worried for themselves, for their parents, they're grieving, they miss school, they miss their activities. My daughter was supposed to graduate in May, no graduation for her from college. My son was due to be a lead in a play at school, and he had a birthday, March 29th. All of that, his 16th birthday, all of that was missed. And so, all of our children have a story about what's missing, what's not happening. And then, so we knew our kids needed to get out of their houses. All of our parents are not equipped to take care of their children. Some houses have multiple children. Some parents are going to work and can't stay home, right? It's like everyone has a different scenario, and we wanted to respond the best way we could in the way that we're able to. And so we open back up. We have a remote learning lab for kids, and we have our preschool open. We will be open this summer. We have found, the research says, that children are safer than they are at home. And so we're doing that. I've buried a lot of people because of COVID, so it has personally really affected me. But I know I have to keep going. So That's what we're doing. We're in the middle of a war, and we're trying to, I don't know if we can win at this point, 500,000 people, right? So we've already lost, but we're trying to save as many as we can.
Mm-hmm. Pastor Kim, I'm always fascinated by your story, and many people don't know you have 5 degrees. You are a product of East Harlem. What has made you commit to the neighborhood? You are as dedicated as anybody I've ever met in my life, especially as far as ministry is concerned. The passion that you have for the kids is unparalleled. What made you stay there, and what drives you?
So I want to say it's a couple things. One is that I grew up in East Harlem. East Harlem District 4 had an excellent school system. I was well educated in East Harlem. I was well prepared for the scholarship that I got to go to a New England boarding school for high school. And I got there and had absolute culture shock and wanted to come home, where I was loved and nurtured and educated and well taken care
of.
Oh man.
All right. Jamie will get her back. He'll get her back.
I think Bill lost her.
You know what the best. So give a little people some things about the pastor.
Well, I'll tell you. So she has started a school. Her former pastor, Reverend Leroy Rixey, her predecessor, started. He had this vision for this ministry in Harlem, and the thing that I love about her, and you all would appreciate this, is you're not going to see her flying around in a Learjet. You're not going to see her in a Bentley or whatever. She's a person that genuinely is for the people. And as she rejoins us, she could tell her own story. But I could just tell you a first hand account that she definitely served. She's a true disciple of Christ and a champion for people. But you can take it back, Pastor Kim.
So I went away to boarding school, and what I found out was that, there are schools that educate their children in a way that's very different than the way we educate ours. Those schools are built to create the leaders of this world, not just this country, but of the world. They are taught differently. They're taught to think differently, and the expectation of those children, very, very different. Those children who are dynastically wealthy, I guess a lot of us would call them trust fund babies. Those kids are in school right now. Those children are in school every day right now, and going to music classes and art classes and dance classes and whatever other classes, and they're vacationing. Life has not stopped. They put a mask on and they have kept it moving while we have been paralyzed. So anyway, I went to boarding school, and then I came back my senior year because I hated it. I hated feeling like a visitor and an unwanted guest in a culture where I knew, like in a system that I knew was not created for me. And so I came back to New York. I graduated from Manhattan Center for Math and Science, the first graduating class. And I graduated with brilliant young people of color. Our whole class went to 4-year colleges. I think one student, some of them Ivy League schools. I think one student went into the armed services. So I will also say the other side of my story is that while I always did well in school, I was a menace to society. So I was addicted to drugs. I sold drugs. I ran the streets. I was promiscuous. I was a problem child in every way of the word. I was a problem in this community. And so I owe this community a lot. It was nothing but good to me, and I wreaked havoc here. I will also say, though, I love it here. I love my community, and I love my people. I love Black and Latino people. So this is home. And it's crazy because when people know that I've gone away to college, I went to prep school, I can make a choice and be somewhere else. And so, people within the community are always like, why you come back here? Why you want to be here? Like, do you understand what you're saying about yourself?
Yeah.
Do you like, why would you ask me that question? Where else would I rather be? Where else do I want to live? Who else do I want to work with and for? Who else would I rather serve? My biggest nightmare would be having to get on a train in the morning and go into some office building downtown and punch a clock.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Like, what made you choose the name Booker T. Washington? All the people you could have chosen. What made you go with that name?
Well, I didn't choose it. My the Booker T. Washington Learning Center was started a year before I got here by my former pastor. So he chose it, and then he introduced me to Booker T. And then I also learned about George Washington Carver, who worked with Booker T. Washington at Tuskegee University, which was not Tuskegee University when they worked there. It was a normal and industrial school. But I learned this amazing philosophy. And I also was just so inspired by like the strength, the wisdom, the brilliance, and the dedication of Booker T to his people. And his literally, if you read up from slavery, literally his willingness to make something out of nothing. Like when he finished at Hampton, they called him to go to Tuskegee, and it was the town of Tuskegee, not the school. There was nothing there. He made the bricks with his hands. The students figured out how to make the bricks. And if you've ever been to Tuskegee, you would imagine when I was reading about it, you would imagine what could the buildings look like? Little square things with little bricks. Like, how good could this be architecturally? Right? If you go there and you see the buildings, I think it was 21 buildings or something was made by the students. And you see what is built there. It is majestic. It is excellent. It is beautiful. It is nothing short of miraculous. And so it was, a man who came out of slavery, so who had everything working against him in many ways. I feel as a Black woman, that's my life, and growing up poor. And being all the trauma I've had in my life. So you know, he came out of slavery and determined that economic freedom was the way to go. And the only way he thought economic freedom would happen for his people is if he built an institution, which is, you know, we have to be institution builders.
Absolutely.
He built an institution that would serve to make other people institution builders, right? So, and would allow them to be economically free from dependency on white people, white money, white systems, and all of that. So I know he, you know, I mean, I don't have to keep defending him, but, you know, he gets a bad rap. He really does.
He does, but that's, I ain't gonna, we can go, yeah, I ain't gonna go on that, but, you know, he does get a little bad rap.
If we just would understand the historical context, and we would understand where he was in this country. He was in the South, not the North. He had been a slave. He wasn't born free. He went to Hampton. He didn't go to Harvard, right? Completely different agenda, and we don't have to pit one against the other. But he had nothing but the right intentions for his people. And when we look at how the people he served and developed and groomed were doing, right, during the period of Reconstruction, they're doing better, arguably, than we are doing right now.
I agree.
Yeah. Yes. I want to ask you a question, Reverend. Right. I was just having a conversation earlier today with my wife, and she brought to my attention this article that she was reading about this young lady that during the pandemic, she was starving. Like, she couldn't get anything to eat. She's going to school. She's remote learning. And, you know, food is something we take for granted on a daily basis. You know what I mean? But are you noticing in the area that you basically help, are you noticing kids being hungry on a daily basis?
Yes. So one of the things I noticed, because I'm a mama who shops at the local grocery store, is that the price of food is through the roof.
Correct. It's going up a lot.
Like, it's crazy. I'm like, aren't we in a pandemic? Shouldn't we be trying to keep the prices down? Even as store owners, like, just being sensitive to your community, right? Like, even if what you've had to buy has gone up, like, at some point, like, you can't, whatever. Anyway, yes. So the price of food has gone up. Many more people are unemployed. I think food is scarce for many people. We don't live in a food desert by any means, right? There's fruit and vegetable in every corner in New York City, thank God. We have to make better choices about the way that we eat, but the good, you know, there's a decent diet awaits us. But yeah, our children are hungry, and they're also malnourished, many of them, right? So it's not only that they need to eat, it's they also need to eat better than they're eating. One of the things that, you know, should have been a result of this pandemic, when we kept hearing people say that people were dying from underlying issues, right? Pre-existing conditions. Those are conditions that people would say the Black community kind of has the corner on. They are all preventable illnesses. And so while we were hearing the sirens and doing the death count every day, we also should have been talking about, and we need to do it. We need to talk about diet and exercise and changing the way that we eat and drink and sleep and you know, all of it, and take care of ourselves. And we have to start that with our children. We must start doing that with our kids. Fixing it in an adult is next to impossible.
Let me ask you this question.
We have to start feeding our children better.
Yeah, I know before, when we met before, that I asked you a question, like, for your place, you don't take any city money. Can you tell people why you don't take any city funding? Because a lot of people don't understand, like, how nonprofits work. Sometimes we get, it's called government contracts and stuff like that we you know, and then we get private funding. Why? What's the reason? Can you tell people why you don't take the city funding?
Well, one is philosophical and the other one is just practical. So philosophically, I feel like I want to take care of my own people. I want to be able to say what they need, how they get it, who they get it from, right? Like, I believe that interdependence. I mean, some of this is also like religious conviction, right? Like, I don't want to be dependent on the government. I do believe that people are supposed to be interdependent. We are supposed to take care of one another. And so I want the freedom to do it my way.
Mm-hmm.
I want my program to have the kind of integrity where we're able to say, and this is not a slight on anybody else who takes government money. This is just a personal decision, but I want us to be able to say that we took care of our own kids. And if that means that we have a little less and I have to work a little harder and I have, so be it. But I really appreciate the fact that we have been taking care of our own children for over 30 years now. And then just in a practical sense, it's a lot of paperwork. It is, you need a whole person or people or department to do contract management work. And I'm good at raising private money. I have really no interest in doing the work of public money.
I can't blame you because I got a lot of government contracts and they drive me crazy.
Rod asked the question.
That's what y'all keep telling me. So
I can't listen.
I'm like, oh, Lord,
listen. Before government contracts, I had hair. They don't let.
I believe
man.
I keep the little bit I
have. Pastor Kim, Rod asked an interesting question about children that are hungry. Expound a little bit about Our Father's Kitchen. Let the people know what that is, what that program is during regular times outside of a pandemic.
Okay, so growing up poor and being people of color and like this community is Black and Latino, so food is everything. It is the center of everything that we do, and it is a big part of our identity, and it's part of how we comfort and come together. How we comfort each other, how we come together, how we celebrate everything. So I wanted us to have, because the community was being gentrified, I wanted us to have a community dinner. I wanted it to be that when I thought about the poor people in our community, I wanted it to be that big families that couldn't go out to eat, couldn't take 3 kids or 4 kids out to dinner, could bring their kids here, sit at a table that had fresh flowers and tablecloth and a waiter or waitress come and serve them a 3-course meal that was nutritious and delicious, not far from home, in a church, in our sanctuary, where the pastors come by and say hello and offer prayer if you need. But mostly I just wanted them to feel like they had a place they could come and relax and have time with their family. And then I wanted people who were moving into the community to have a space where they could meet the people who've been here. I also wanted them to see who we are. I wanted an open door time where they were not just coming in on Sunday morning gawking, or if they would even come in, right? So I wanted a time where new members of our community could come in and see what we were doing. And then finally, I come from a family where hospitality is very, very important. We had restaurants. I just felt like it was a way to use one of my skills and, my knowledge. And I don't know, God just said, do it, bring them together. And so that's what we do. The first Wednesday of every month until the pandemic happened, we would bring in about 70 to 100 people. They would be fed. Every table has a waiter, somebody around who can pray with them. It was never like, you have to come to church or people are not going to come here. And, it's not a bait and switch. It was dinner. We invited you to dinner and it was dinner. And we just went out in the community, 300 invitations, and handed out 300 invitations, and about 100 people would come. So 1 out of 3, that's an amazing, that says a lot about the people who are here doing outreach and how, and the reputation of our church, the trust that people in our community have for what we do, and the quality of our food and our care and our service.
So what do you see, like what do you see a school being at since this pandemic and thing, like maybe 5 years from now? What do you see the future of and of East New York? Because like you just mentioned, gentrification is happening. I mean, East New York, I'm sorry, East Harlem. Gentrification is happening. What do you see Harlem? Do you see our faces still being in that community 5 years from now?
I'm not. I mean, so this particular community has so much public housing in it. We have the most public, housing projects per square foot or something like that, and in whatever radius, it's some high number of New York City. I can't repeat it exactly, but per square foot, we have the most housing projects. And so those are not going to get torn down in the next 5 years. Poor people are going to be here. What they did was they built in every empty lot and in every tenement that they could tear down and remodel and, gut, they've done that. And so we're going to all have to figure out how to coexist. And I don't know, I'm struggling. I think a lot of people are struggling. On one hand, it's like you're here and you're our neighbor, so you're welcome. On another hand, the way people come is a little bit problematic. They come and there's like the building across the street from our church. It has a shuttle bus that takes them to 96th Street because, God forbid you have to walk to the subway at 103rd Street. Just things like that. Like you don't shop here. Your kids don't go to school here. You don't come to church here, but you take advantage of lower rents, So those kinds of things, I pray that in time, if people are going to be here, that we are more of a community. I pray that more people are not dislocated and feeling like they have to leave, priced out of everything. I don't know. I'm very concerned. Sometimes, you let things collapse to a point where everybody just kind of abandons it and then other people come in. And I feel like with our school system, a lot of times I feel like that's what's happening. If they can't take our housing, then they will just destroy the school system. And then we will have to flee for that reason, or the violence or the something, right? But it's hard to be here.
You mentioned earlier, Pastor, that the more affluent schools were still sending their children to school. The children were still attending classes, and that's not the case there. What is happening with socialization? There's a certain socialization that goes to school. What are you seeing with regard to our children there, with regard to the lack of socialization that comes from them not being able to attend school and see their friends or go to their activities if they have any, or I don't know what there is going on.
Well, I think for some of them, there's too much of whatever negative stuff might be going on at home, right? There's just more of that. So if whatever your problems are at home, whether there may be violence or mental illness or anxiety, or drug addiction or whatever, or overcrowding, there's more of that. Then you're living in close quarters with people 24 hours a day, and there's what that brings. And then as young people, you're physical, and right now our kids are sitting. We have right before this happened, what would we say? We would say preschoolers or little kids 30 minutes a week on screen time. Older kids 30 minutes a day, no more, right? And then all of a sudden this happens and suddenly it's fine, and we're ignoring what the repercussions of this are, right? Before we had a long list of all the ways that screen time hurt children just 10 months ago, and all of a sudden this is just the way we have to do it. There's another way to do it. Certain people know how to educate children. They happen to be in charge of our educational system. Their children don't go to our schools though. So there's one standard for one set of children, and then there's a whole different standard for ours. So our kids need what all children need. They need exercise. They need sunlight. They need interaction. They need positive reinforcement every day. They need the arts. They need science. They need labs. They need, the resources that are in school. And they need friendship. Play is a child's work, right? That is their job. Their job is to play. They were created that way. And so the fact that they are homebound is, the repercussions, depending on how well the parents or guardians or whatever are able to manage that, it's difficult. I have a 16-year-old at home this has not been good for him, for his mental health. And I talk to other young people and then trying to manage it. Like, when do we do I let you see your friends? Do they have to test before they come to our house? Do I let you have a sleepover? Do we go on vacation? So let one of your friends test and come with us. Like, how do I keep you safe, keep the rest of us safe, but allow you to have some sense of normalcy in your life? You know, he told me the other day, I want to go back to, I want guitar classes. I don't want them online. I want karate class. I don't want to do a karate class online. He's sick of this already. Mm-hmm. How is he supposed to go through the normal things of being 16 and 17, all those little milestones, good and bad stuff that he should be doing right now? He's not doing any of it that I know of.
Well, Pastor K, first of all,
our kids are in a terrible position.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing that tonight. Before we go, I just want you to tell the people where the church is located and how they can find you online, your social media, and how they can watch services on Sunday until we open up.
And can they make it rain at the church? We need donations.
Oh yeah.
we made it all the way. We almost got through.
Yeah,
we
almost made it.
We was close.
I was well behaved tonight.
I was thinking, dude, we sound so intelligent right now, man.
Yeah. First of all, Pastor Kim, this is my opportunity to say we will never get anywhere. We will never get anywhere as a people. I have to say that, but go ahead, tell the people how we can.
Yes, we will. We have to know how to ballet and boogaloo. It's fine. That'll make us any less intelligent.
Thank you.
It's okay. So we are the Church of the Resurrection. We're at 325 East 101st Street. 325 East 101st Street, and that is in New York City, 10029. If you want to send something in the mail, or if you want to stop by. Resurrection Sunday, we are opening. We are reopening. 11 o'clock Sunday mornings, with all safety protocols in place. We are on Facebook, the Booker T. Washington Learning Center, the Booker T. Washington Learning Center on Facebook. We're also the Church of the Resurrection NYC, Resurrection NYC on Facebook, and you'll see, you'll know it's us. You'll see plenty of pictures of me and other people. It'd be great to have interaction, to have people follow us and see what we're doing. We are also the BTW Preschool on Instagram. Our little ones are on Instagram. It's easier for their parents to follow with photos. So BTW Preschool on Instagram. So please follow us, support, show you love. And you guys, let me just say, I have been listening to y'all. This is wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I thought you were going to get us.
So good.
I thought you were going to say something bad about
I thought she was going to get us. That's what I thought she was going to do. She was going to I heard some of the stuff y'all be saying.
Let me tell you. No, I hear I have heard it and I love it.
Okay.
It's exactly what we need. We need to hear Black men's voices. We're not allowed in the barbershop all the time. I walk into a barbershop, it gets quiet. I got to stand around for like 20 minutes before they, take it up again. So it's wonderful to hear y'all chop it up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Voices, the way you think, not enough of us are listening to y'all. So thank you so much for creating this platform.
Appreciate it.
Love you. Let's have a great day. All right. Love you.
Love y'all.
Love you too. Take care.
Take it easy. Peace.
All right.
All right.
Yo.
Oh,
Derek, you're blowing up. You're getting a raise. Yo, I tell you one thing about Reverend Wright that I agree with. She said that the children need to get out and play. That's what they were born to do. That's probably what's wrong with me. I need to get out and play.
I do too. I'm going crazy.
I'm going crazy. I need to get out and play. Mm-hmm. Not like I used to do a long time ago. I'm talking about like just travel, get out, be comfortable going to dinner, doing the normal things that I'm used to do. I need to get out and play. She's right.
We're close. We're close, fellas. We're close. Yeah. We're on the last stretch of this, I think.
I actually want to play a game of tag. I do want to play like red light. I want to play red light, green light, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I want to get out and play a game of Skelly on the
Skelly. The people. That's a New York. That's a New York game. But no. I'm gonna tell you a secret, y'all. I know how to turn double dutch very well.
Okay.
You do?
Okay,
You're
D,
not
hold on.
double-handed?
They let
Hold
you
on,
in.
hold on.
Look,
I could turn
I'm
them
saying
joints,
this.
bro.
let
Wait,
you in.
D, we're gonna have a meeting. First, getting the chest waxed. Okay, and getting your idea. Now
Don't show
double
it, kid.
dutch.
Don't show
We're
it.
gonna
Double
have
dutch.
we're gonna have
He's
to have a
very
meeting.
comfortable.
And then they got this new
Yeah,
game
yeah.
out. It's like a treasure chest game where you find the Red Bull machine that's missing. That's the new thing they got now. You know,
It depends. It depends on the time frame, Kelvin. That Red Bull machine might be stripped now. The time is
man.
elapsed.
right? The bull is gone.
Yeah, the bull's gone. Yeah, everything's going on that machine now.
No,
They're
listen,
going through one.
I'm nice with numbers too. That's another thing, but I ain't gonna, that's a whole nother subject with that one, man. I'm nice with that. It's a challenge little girls in the school when I was working in elementary school. They didn't know Mr. D was nice with these. Yo, before we go, like, you know, we always tell people certain things to watch and stuff like this. So this is a watch it and chop it segment of the show. What do you guys have on your watch it and chop it list? What's number one for y'all?
I think Trial 4 for me.
Okay.
It's a documentary on Netflix. It was, I think it goes back to 1993. Basically, a young brother was accused of killing a Boston police officer. And I don't want to tell the ending, but basically he went on 4 trials before he came back with a final decision. I think it's a must watch. It definitely gives you an insight into how the police department works and how it protects itself by any means necessary.
Yep, I watched it. That was very good. I got on my list. I got Judas and the Black Messiah.
Okay.
That was good. I would just say my only problem with that was I wish they would show Fred Hammond what made him become a Panther before and made it a 3-hour movie instead of an hour-and-a-half movie.
Yeah, I think they needed more time for that movie.
They needed more. They needed more time for the movie, and I think some of the stuff we all knew, some of the things, but I know some of us didn't know about. I'm not going to spoil it because some people might not even seen it, but or don't know the Fred Hammond story. But it's a must watch for me. It's a must watch. Watch it.
I say it's a watch too for me too.
Yeah, I got Snowfall on mine right now. You know, getting back into the new season.
Those first 2 episodes, woo!
Out, man, right now.
Snowfall. For people don't know, it's on FX. You can watch it on. It's also on Hulu. But that's a must watch right there. And people don't understand it's like loosely based about Freeway Ricky Ross's lifestyle.
Yeah, it ain't about throwing snowballs, everybody.
At all.
It ain't about throwing snowballs.
It gives you insight of how the CIA and Iran with the
Contras.
Contra with Ronald Reagan, first bitch Bush. I mean Bush. I ain't say bitch. I mean Bush. what he had to play in that.
Freudian
slip. You know, Snowfall is a must. And another one is I would say is Hip Hop Uncovered. That just wrapped up the 6 episodes. Last 2 episodes was last night. I thoroughly enjoyed it. We all probably came up in that era when hip hop and how it changed from into the street got involved in it. So if anybody wants to say anything about that, but I think it's a must watch.
And I am right now, as you guys know, I'm not in my house yet. So I've been, I'm on the 2nd season of Good Times, and I'm binge watching Good Times right now and everything like that. So I don't know what's gonna happen. I just hope James and Florida live happily ever after. So that's what right now. Don't spoil it, but that's where I'm at right now.
Yo, I hate to spoil it to you. I hate to spoil it for you, Kelvin. But on the last episode, they move on up and they turn it. They live next to the Jeffersons, so that's the spoiler. So the times move next door to the Jeffersons.
Yeah, what was the guy named who played football?
Words.
He was trying to play football. He was playing football. The guy, what was his name?
Oh yeah. See,
that's how they got it. They got
show
it.
Yet. Selma's still single right now.
Yeah.
Remember 3 words.
Damn. Yeah.
Oh man, another show that came on. I think this might be the 3rd season. I'm not sure. It's called For Life. It might be the 2nd or 3rd. I'm not sure.
It's second, I think it is.
Second season, and it's produced by executive produced by 50 Cent. It's about this brother that was wrongly, falsely accused out by the New Jersey Police Department, but they base it now like it's in New York. He became a lawyer while incarcerated in jail, beat his own case, and now he's defended former criminals and also people that's going on the street. And it kind of ties into what's going on now. I don't want to spoil it for you, but I think it's a must watch for everybody. It's great.
My
Right.
wife is into it.
And the person the story is about is saying they're going to run for mayor for New York too.
That's right.
Oh,
That's correct.
is he?
Yeah,
Yeah, he said
yeah,
he's gonna run for mayor. Yeah.
yeah. So with that said, brothers, man, I love you guys, man.
Always.
And let's chop it up
Much
next
love,
week,
much respect.
man. I hope to see y'all this
So-
week. Anybody free this week? I'm willing to hang out.
All right. All right.
All right, brothers.
Depends on when you want to hang.
Hey, listen, man. I'm thinking about going to the Gentlemen's Club of Leisure.
Okay. Okay. We're gonna leave that one at that one.
All right, brothers. Peace, Jamie. Take us out, man.
Take care.